What is up, everybody? It looks like we are live, so I'm just testing it right now over here, making sure that we're all good. If you are viewing, let me know in the comment section. Okay, I see us up on YouTube, so it looks like everything is good. I do know that this angle over here is a little bit too bright, but that's okay. We are not going to worry about that. So let's jump in right quick. We're going to be talking for just a few moments. Today, I have Chris here. Chris, you want to tell the people who you are right quick?
My name is Chris. I've been featured on Joe's podcast before. Go check them out. They're awesome. Content creator, video producer, and camera reviewer. Just kidding.
Yeah. Okay, so first let's jump in and talk about the A7C, give our impressions, and here's kind of the roadmap. I did have one. Let me see. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Okay, so here's what I was thinking. Let's talk about some of the features of the camera. Let's also talk about, I want to talk about some of my complaints as well, because I was a little bit let down by some of these features. I mean, not, I don't know. We'll get into it. I don't know if I would use the word all the way let down, but this camera, let's start off with the price. This camera is coming in at 20, what is it, Chris? $2,100?
2198, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2198, yeah, I see it down here. My old man eyes can't read my own writing because it's so small in notes. But that is really important to note because the camera that Chris currently owns is the A7C, and that camera cost how much, Chris?
I think it's the exact same price. I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it's 2198 as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's about the same price. And so with that being the same price, that's going to be putting it in a completely different price category, it's going to be putting it in a category that's worth considering because you are not getting some of the same features that the Sony ZV-E1 actually has, in comparison. But overall, this camera is, I mean, I think, let me see, Gerald on down said it the best. He said this camera is just a duplicate of the A7 IV. So if you are someone like actually Chris and you don't own the A7 IV and you're looking for a good video, and photo camera, this is the camera for you. So let's actually start off with some of the features. With this camera, you can actually do, um, pixel shift multi shooting up to 240, megapixel photos. 240.8 megapixel photos. So you're getting like ridiculous quality, obviously, out of these photos on this camera. Now, you also do get benefits that the A7 IV does not have. So you get that AI processor in there. So that's going to do things like a lot of what Chris's camera does, the ZV-E1, where it does like, Chris, I think you said you haven't had a chance to play with some of this, but the tracking that it does, like where it crops in and like it'll follow you around the frame. This now can do that in camera. The autofocus
Yeah.
is like way better now, because you do get like this new AI detection autofocus, which have you actually had a chance to play with the autofocus on the ZV-E1 like extensively?
No, and even the other feature that you didn't mention, which is people in frame where it'll auto adjust the aperture. No, I need to play with those more because as a content creator, like that's game changer.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
for
mean, if
sure.
it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, I see three people in the like you're viewing right now. So just let me know for some reason if the audio is sounding pretty bad because I'm not sure. We are going through Riverside, and yeah, I'm just not sure. So just let me know, if I need to change up anything. So, but you say you haven't had a chance to play with autofocus yet, very much, right?
None of the AI stuff, and definitely the autofocus. Yeah, no, not really. I've just pretty much just played with it straight out the box, like just it's always in 4K. You know,
Yeah, 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 for sure.
honestly, I probably mostly use it like I'm doing right now as like a webcam.
Oh, so speaking of that, when using it as a webcam, the Sony ZV-E1, you are no the Sony ZV. I'm so sorry. First of all, Sony with all these cameras right now, like what's going on?
Right,
There's so many cameras coming out.
right.
So just in case you guys didn't know, they came out with two cameras, not just one. But they just came out with other cameras too this year, and so it's just at this point it's hard to keep up. But this is the Sony A7C Mark II. This camera can do. I was going into something video. What was I about to say? I'm just gonna run through all the specs. Image stabilization up to 7 stops. So it actually doesn't do like stabilization as good as your camera does, the Sony ZV-E10. No, E1, Chris. You can do 4K 60, and you can do full HD up to 120 frames per second. So also, unlike the Sony ZV-E1, you don't get 120 frames per second. No, you don't get 120 4K in camera. But that's again more in line with the Sony A7 IV, because you also don't get 120 in camera on there as well. But you do get 10-bit, and you get 422, and you get all intra. You also get XAVC-SI. So these are really high quality codecs that are available to you, which is very, very nice. Let's see, we're going back through. So we get a 6.2 oversampled image. So I now honestly I want to say I've seen it also in some different places where it said 8K. So it's saying that you're gonna get an 8K oversampled image. No, 7K oversampled image, and it's downsampling that to 4K. So that's just gonna give you a cleaner image overall. This isn't new. Sony's been doing this on a lot of their cameras for a very long time now. 15 stops of dynamic range, which is in line with all the other cameras. And here's my prediction: because on the Sony A7 IV, the dual native ISOs are like 640 or 800. It's one of those two. And then the highest one is at 3200. I'm predicting that the dual native ISOs are the same, because it's the same sensor, it's the same camera, just in a different body. So I think you get 6400 on your no, you get 640 on your low end, then you get 3200 on your high end. So overall, how do you feel about this camera, especially at the
So I
price?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is. Compared to the ZVE1, I found myself kind of comparing them as well. Like I almost straight up jumped on here and was like, buy a ZVE1 because there's a lot of stuff I like about it, right? The 120 isn't a big bummer for me because if I need it, like I don't know, I just rarely use it. That's just me though. Like I may start using it more now that I have a camera that does it because that's part of the reason I don't use it a lot right now. And then it says, and correct me, I don't remember if you said this yet, but the 60 frames is a Super 35 crop. That's super interesting.
Wait,
Um,
really? It crops
that's what
at
it
60.
says.
Huh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, you get 4K up to 30 in that like 10 bit, and then you can do 60, but it's a Super 35 crop, which again isn't quicker. You just have to do the math when you're using your lenses. But if it comes out looking the same, I mean, I'll take it. One of the things I do like about it, though, on top of like everything that you said, is it has a little viewfinder. It looks like, and
Yes, it
I'm
does.
down with that.
Yeah.
I Oh, and the photo size. So right now, the only downside to my ZV-1, I thought was going to be a problem. Figured out how to fix that. No issues now. The problem with photos, though, if I want to bring one camera with me, and I love everything else on the video side, the 12 megapixel photos on the ZVE1 is a huge, like huge bummer. Which is going back to
Yeah.
what you were saying, why I want to do an A7 IV. So with this camera, it's got me thinking, like, dude, it's almost a straight up trade. I just have to lose 120 to have, what is it, 33 megapixel photos, and I got a viewfinder, which I don't use that as much on video, but as a
Yeah.
photographer, I like to be able to pull it up to my eye and look through that to frame the shot. So I don't know. There's
Yeah.
a lot of really good stuff about this camera.
So I really do like it as well, but there still are a few things that I don't like. And so I want to air out my complaints right quick, and then we're going to jump off, because I do want to try to keep this relatively short today, around 10 minutes or so. I know we're at 9. Here are the complaints that I have for Sony. I want a camera that will first allow you to do LUTs out whenever you're using it through the USB-C port. So here's what I mean. This is a problem that me and Chris have had, and this is a problem that I've had with a lot of my guests when I'm doing remote podcasts and they're buying the equipment that I recommend to them, which is typically Sony. So you get a Sony camera, and not most, all the new Sony cameras will allow you to connect a USB-C cable to your computer, to the camera, and then you can use it as a webcam. No additional software needed, especially if you have one of the newer models. You don't need to do anything at all. But what I do not like is that you cannot choose, like if you've installed a LUT on your camera, you can't use that LUT whenever you're going using it as a webcam. Therefore, for instance, like right now, I have the Sony FX3 over here, and I have on this other angle right over here, I'm shooting with the Sony FX6. But with this FX3 and with the FX30 and with the A7 IV and with the ZV-E1 and with the ZV-E10 and the A7 whatever CR or whatever it's called, you can plug those in as your webcam, but whenever you do that, you don't get that LUT out. So the only way you can fix that is by running it through some type of capture card. So that means you have to buy a Evato, 4K cam link. And so once you run it through HDMI, because you can do LUT HDMI out, and so you have to run it through the capture card, which basically makes the USB-C port useless for someone like me who's doing remote podcasts, and I want him to be really, really turnkey, so I don't have to, apply LUT in post or use a Nagato capture card. I just want to be able to plug it right into my computer. I can't do that. So that's one pain that I definitely don't like. Another thing that I'm thinking of is I really wish that Sony would figure out, how to also basically allow you to do some type of remote tethering so that you can connect your camera, and this may already be a thing. You can connect your camera to the Wi-Fi, and then if you have strong enough Wi-Fi, you're good to go. Now you can live stream directly from your camera, no cables needed. That would be awesome too. That's not that big of a complaint, but the first one is definitely a big complaint. So overall, I can't complain because I'm happy about cameras. Am I going to buy this camera? I am not, because of the price still. I just can't deal with, a camera costing $2,100 for what I would use for literally vlogging for, my family content. I feel like this is the perfect camera for vlogging. I think it's really, really good that you get that viewfinder. I think it's amazing that you get those high quality photos. So, for instance, right now, here's my setup, and you guys may yell at me and say, "Well, just sell your cameras," and I might, I might. But right now, I have the Sony A7 IV and I have the ZV-E1. So, whenever I'm going around with my family and I'm vlogging for my Klein Clan channel, or no, it's not called Klein Clan anymore, the Klein's channel, I'm taking both of those cameras. Here's why: the Sony ZV-E10 doesn't really do high quality photos. The Sony A7 IV does. So if I'm in a scenario where I don't want to do a video clip here, I want to take a photo, I'm definitely not going to do that on the Sony ZV-E10. I'm going to pull out my A7 IV. And so this camera like marries it all together because it's not as big as the Sony A7 IV. It's more closer to the Sony ZV-E10 size, a little bit bigger, more in the middle. And so you can go around and vlog with this. And, if my wife wants to, she can throw it in her purse and it's not a problem. But again, that $2,100 price tag is just something that's not doable for me. I'm really waiting for Sony to come out with a camera with similar specs. You can take a few things away, closer to about $1,500. So I need something that's a step above the Sony ZV-E10. And maybe that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for a Sony ZV-E10 Mark II, and that'll be exactly what I need. Because that camera costs like $698 on Amazon all day long. You can buy them used on Facebook, typically for about $600, $550. And so I'm really waiting for something like that to come around. And then I'll probably buy that. But as far as cameras, if you have the Sony ZV-E, if you have the Sony FX30, the Sony FX3, the Sony A7 IV, or the Sony FX6, I don't think you need this camera. I think you're fine. Now, if you need photos and you don't have the A7 IV, like Chris said, yes, now you're in a predicament to where you're thinking about those choices. But I think that's all for us today. We're going to wrap it up here. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you're watching the stream after, if you're watching it during, just let us know. They will probably have a creator discount for it after a while anyways. That's what someone's saying in the comment section. Yeah, for sure. I'd be interested in what that looks like, and I don't even know what that means. But let us know in the comment section what you mean by that, because we're all up for discounts. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have not checked out this, the channel yet, definitely go over and do that. You can check out Chris's channel. I'll leave it in the description after the stream. And if you're watching after stream, let me know. If you're watching during stream, also let me know.